14 WILI and 95.3 FM presents Hometown Threads, a closer look at our community and the people that make it go. Every week, you'll hear uplifting stories from our local businesses and our neighbors. Now, here's our host for Hometown Threads, Keith C. Rice.
Welcome into another edition of Hometown Threads on 14 WILI 95.3 FM and Willimantic Today Facebook. It's Keith C. Rice. Hometown Threads, of course, comes your way every Tuesday from 5:05 to 5:30 on WILI and, of course, on Willimantic Today Facebook. Brought to you by, courtesy of our good friends, I'm pointing at the mugs, Liberty Bank. Be community kind. Big thanks to Liberty Bank. 3 locations in the area here. Of course, Gateway Commons down on West Main Street in Willimantic. I think I know somebody that works there. My lovely wife. Of course, we got Angela and the crew over here across the street. Hello to Angela, 679 Main Street location right across from the radio station. And then Liberty Bank up on Route 195 in Mansfield. Hello to Carrie and her wonderful crew. Big thanks to Liberty Bank. Be community kind. Speaking of thanks, J. Matt Rupar, the producer extraordinaire behind the board, making sure everything runs right, making sure we're behaving. And, and of course, RJ, the admin team over at Willimantic Today. Thanks to everyone who watches on Facebook as well. Hometown Threads has been on the air since mid-November. If you're still new to the show, well, let me tell you a little about it. It's about our community members. We get to know our community members a little bit better, the inside story, how they began, how their business began, and in between there are some positive, uplifting, fun stories. And this man to my right here needs no introduction. In fact, I think he's been in these studios a lot the past few days. Mayor Tom DeVivo, the mayor of Windham.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Keith C. Rice. J. Matt?
Yes.
J. Matt. Okay.
Because it's James, right? James Matt Rupar.
Well,
okay.
But thanks for having me. Yes. Presently, our family, we've been in this town for a very long time.
Right, and I don't mean to cut you off, but we're here. We're here not to talk about mayor stuff, because you've done a lot with that with Dennis and Susan, and of course you're on with Wayne. The mayor thing's your hobby. Okay.
That's a hobby. Right?
Right.
That's a hobby. Well, do you get paid for your hobbies? No.
No, this is a hobby.
Right. Your hobby. It's your job. Your hobby is the Knights of Columbus and the breakfast. I hear you did a good job yesterday. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Sold out of food.
We did a wonderful job. Little plug for our local Knights of Columbus Council 14. Every second Sunday of the month we have a huge menu. So come on down to St. Joseph's Church Hall. March.
Cheerios.
What was that?
Do you have Cheerios?
I believe we have Cheerios. Special request for Cheerios for the March breakfast? Okay.
All
right, so yes, we have Mayor Tom here, not for once to talk about mayor stuff, which kind of give you a break from that.
Good.
He's extremely busy. Let's talk about Willie Waste, because you're a DeVivo. The DeVivo started, if I'm not mistaken, they started Willimantic Waste Paper. We'll get into all that, but first, tell me, Thomas DeVivo, anybody ever call you Thomas?
No, but I will tell you what. You really listen to WILI AM and you're a Willimantic person, what do you think they call me?
95.3 FM.
Yeah, 90. What do you think they most? How do you know
Mayor Tom?
How do I know
Tommy
you from
D?
Willimantic? Just call me Tommy.
I call you Tommy.
Tommy, what are you doing?
When I post stuff on Facebook about this guy, because we actually just saw him at the plunge. Just not too long ago, we were half naked jumping into the icy waters of Lauder Park for a great cause. That was a wonderful day.
I had a shirt on.
We both had shirts on, but there's a great picture.
That's not half naked. Half naked means
yeah, I know. There's a great picture of him trailing me trying to get out of the water, and that was a fun time. That was the first time I ever did the plunge. Was that your first time?
No. Oh no, probably 12 times.
Okay.
I remember a couple years.
You've done it every year?
Many times, yeah. We went down there once, and the fire department was there with big sticks breaking the ice. That was really cold.
Wow! So you've done
that was colder than this week. And
really?
Yeah. Because it was windy, and if there's snow on the beach. Yeah.
All right, let's get to hometown. Hometown Threads.
I want
to know what was. Take us through the life. We only have like 20 minutes now. Take us through the life of Tom DeVivo as a kid growing up in Willimantic.
Well, when I was a really young kid, I lived in Adams Heights next to the Rice family.
You did
at the
not.
top of the hill.
Did you really?
We did, yeah. And but then we moved to Willimantic from Lebanon. And why would we move here? My mom wanted better schools. And Wyndham, we went to Noble. I went to Noble School. Then I went to Kramer. Then I went to Wyndham High. My whole life was on High Street. I walked to school every single day my whole life, from first grade on. And I just had a great life growing up in Willimantic. It was great Thursday nights. The mills were always booming. Things were happening. My father's business and my grandfather's business, my grandfather was quite small. My father was sometimes was the only employee. Sometimes they'd hire someone else. It was Willimantic Waste. My grandmother would refer to us as shop. My parents would call it the place. So and then we called it the waste.
So wait a minute. I all the years I've known the DeVivo family, and your parents were legends, by the way. I never knew you lived on Adams Heights, and I see your brother John all the time in the nights.
He didn't live at Adams Heights.
So okay, you weren't there that long on Adams Heights then.
Well, I don't know. I went to kindergarten in Lebanon, and then first grade.
Okay, so that's really young, and then you moved to. Okay.
Yeah.
Then,
we lived next door to the Muellers, who lived also on Adams. If we're right on top of the road on the left, I think it's a little red house. Next house from the Muellers, and then we moved to Willimantic, and we lived next door to the Muellers again.
Okay, now what year did Willimantic Waste Paper start? With your father, right? Was it your
no, my grandfather?
Your grandfather, kind of like Rick Nassif last week. All right.
It started with we like to think like 37, 38. There was some documents and paperwork. He bought the property in 1936. Family lore has it that he tried raising turkeys, and he did a pig or two, and always had a garden down there.
Yeah.
And because during the war, I've been told this by my uncle Roe Wheeler, that there was a giant V for victory on the top of the building, because the scrap business was to collect scrap to help us win the war effort for World War II. And he bought waste paper, and he actually started in Norwich with just a truck driving around the city of Norwich.
I was about to say, where was the original location? Was Norwich?
There was no location, and supposedly, according to what I've heard from Sam Gordon, who owned Surplus Center, he's since passed. He was a great, great man. His family owned a scrapyard down in Norwich on the river, and he used to show us pictures. They would load car batteries into ships, whole barges full of car batteries that they would have leave the dock. You don't do that anymore because they're dangerous. But he knew, and then I guess we got the American Thread for a contract, and my grandfather bought that little piece of land there from someone named Mulligan, and because I have looked into town records, that's why I know he bought it at 36. But and of course, throughout the years, we've had our challenges.
We'll get into that. But so what now? Take us through your teenage years. Do you? You're a teenager, growing up, going to Wyndham, right?
Yeah.
Did you think
I was
that
a teenager in 8th grade too, right?
How about that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so was I.
Yeah, so were you. So was
going to Kramer.
J. Matt.
So were you already? What did you know you wanted to jump into the family business, or your father already said you're going to be in the family business? How did that all come about?
Well, back in those days, it was never slave labor. We joke around it, but our dad we worked every Saturday. I used to run a second shift at night down there, and I didn't run it. We had a Polish guy that was here for 2 years. He would come and then go back during the summer because he was a farmer. He was a Gadarowski, and his name was Walter. And he would come come here, and my father would pay him, and then he would run this bunch of teenage boys that were working down at the shop at night. And
how old were you at this point?
14, for 15, 16.
Okay, so you're basically getting your feet wet there, right?
Well, we used to work when we were little kids. When we were little kids, my father was really big with computer cards. Computer used to have these tabulating cards that were basically based on binary codes. They had numbers on 00011. Doesn't matter. And they've now gone away. You don't even know what they are, but they kind of look like time cards. And we'd have trail loads of them. They would come with elastics on them or boxes. They'd take the elastics off or maybe any paper clips. And we'd all go down there at night and sort the boxes and throw them in a baler and bale them up. And then he would take them to a paper mill in Montville or one in Oneiko, Sterling.
So basically, you were part of the family business,
Right.
You kind of got, but your dad never said, "Hey, I want you to work," or
Never.
This is
If we wanted to do something else, both our parents would have encouraged us.
at that age. Was there ever a time like, I don't know if I want to do this? What was a fallback for you if you weren't going to take on the role you eventually would with Willie Waste?
My fallback?
You must have had a fallback. Like, I think I want to. Or
No.
you just knew you were bound to.
I don't know. It was just kind of, I liked doing it. I enjoyed it. I kind of thought I was going to.
And it was you and your. I know.
Every one of us.
Like all of. Wait.
Tim worked here. My parents had 5 children.
I know Tim, John. Well, Gina didn't work.
Well, there's Bridget. Of course, Gina worked.
Gina
there.
worked? I know
Gina
Gina
didn't work. My father would, that was it. You had no, that's how
So
we got
all of
allowance.
you. Wait, it's you.
That had nothing to do with shoveling the driveway.
It's you, Tim, John, Gina, and who am I
No,
missing?
it's Tom, Tim, Bridget, John, Gina.
And you guys all did. Now, okay.
We all did different things.
Now, what? How did you? And I want to get everything what
When
they
Gina
did.
came, I was married.
Okay, but I want to
Yeah,
get
when
what
Gina
everyone.
started working part time, coming around, cleaning the office.
What I want to get to what everyone's role was. How did it eventually become that you were gonna? Because you
Well,
eventually started running it, right? You.
Yes, well, when my dad died unexpectedly, my mom inherited the business, and she owned and Tim and I were full time employees, and so she kind of would come and meet with us weekly, and she had an office. She would pick up the mail, and she made sure we got along because like all family businesses, there has to be some sort of stress, otherwise it just doesn't work out. And
So she basically said, "Tom, you're gonna run. You're gonna run it. Tim, you're gonna do this. John, she
Right.
assigned the roles."
Well, correct. John, had a different career path, I think, always in his mind. We actually thought he was going to go off and, maybe become a Catholic priest or something else.
Now he did move away for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, he was gone. I left the country, and but I was more mechanical, could fix a lot of things, and I liked being around trucks, so I was more involved in operations and maintenance.
Okay, so you were more.
But you have to think back. Not everyone kind of gets it. Prior to 1975, Willimantic Waste was only 7 acres past behind Mackey's. We didn't own that. As you come down the road, the big brick factory.
Right.
We didn't own the stuff off Route 32. Tim and I did it. My father bought that building in 1975. I was in 8th grade.
I was 3.
And I'm not even so sure Gina was born.
Yeah, because Gina's my sister's age, so Gina's
I'm not
she's
so-
probably like 1. Yeah.
Right. And that was a very hard job to clean up. It had back when Menorah Poultry it was Harvard Poultry, then Menorah Poultry, and then he bought that building, and then he opened up the Vivo's Discount Warehouse. And Tim was really involved in working, and all of us worked in the retail side. I mean, the whole family, we all had this entrepreneurial spirit. We try and start different businesses. We had the Vivo's Discount Warehouse, which everyone talks
yeah,
about
that's
still.
right. Forgot
We'd
about
sell
that.
paper goods and wrapping paper and used pieces of scrap metal.
How long was that going on for? And from when to when?
Probably 8, 10. But my dad died, and by the following Saturday, I think my mother was like, "No, we're not doing this,"
Right.
because there was a lot of labor, and it was also open all the time. First, it was a flea market. We used to have a gentleman in there that would sell coins and such like that. He was real nice guy. I don't recall his name right off the top of my head right now, but he's a real nice guy. And we had different people running it. Tim ran it, He was the most person that ran it.
Oh, so Tim did a lot of the operational stuff.
Because he was going, of course. We all worked on trucks
Right.
at some point. I think all the boys worked on trucks. The
Even
girls-
John drove a truck?
He never drove. But we all would go in the truck to go someplace.
No, I mean the actual trucks, the garbage
Well,
trucks.
my
right?
father didn't really do garbage that much. He
Oh.
did. He would. Well, my father was a big heart. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Well, your
And-
mother too.
Yes.
Wonderful people.
But my mother was the businessman, but business person, I should say. Wasn't a very nice mom, but she was the business person overall. Keep my father. My father would make $100 and lend someone 110, and then wonder why we didn't have any money. So, but he did whatever it took to make money.
I got a little heads up from our producer because I can read my producer's eyes. You're saying, and I do this too. We hit the console.
Okay, I
It,
can't
it
touch
makes
the console.
noise.
Don't.
So
Yeah,
next time he
Formica.
does it, you come tie his hands behind his back.
No,
All
I
right.
won't do it.
This gives me a perfect opportunity to say we're here with Wyndham Mayor Tom DeVivo. Now
What?
to talk about mayor stuff. We're here about Willimantic Waste and how he grew up in the area. It's Hometown Threads, brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind on WILI 1400 AM 95.3 FM and Willimantic Today Facebook. Yeah, please.
Well,
please.
I know. Willimantic Today, is that the Facebook that?
That is the big boy social media page.
Oh,
in,
okay.
in the
because
area.
I've always been immature, and I don't have a switch.
Can we get back to Willie Ways, please?
Oh yeah, I forgot. We're talking
Come
about
on.
Willie Ways.
So,
all right, Willie
now
Ways.
hold on. I want to give an update on your family here.
So
We know what
Patrick
you're doing.
DeVivo, Patrick and Mary DeVivo started the business.
Right.
Now I don't know if my father always planned on working there or what he did. My father had an older brother named Patrick, who was killed in Korea when my father was 13, and then he also had a sister Molly, who was older than him, and he had another sister Mary Kay, and Mary Kay was closer to me in age, maybe about, I'm 61, she's probably 70 now, so. And she lives in Phoenix, Arizona. She did not go to
Do
the
the Super Bowl? No.
No.
But-
And my grandfather actually had. Oh my goodness, he had glaucoma, and he was he was really legally blind when I knew him. My whole life that I knew him, he couldn't drive.
What year did your grandfather pass away? If you can remember.
1980.
Okay.
1980, and my grandparents died within a month of each other. They died
Wow.
at Vanderman Place, but they used to live on Jackson Street, right where Henry's Barbershop is.
Okay, we know Tim is running the Wyndham Golf Course.
Yeah, he's
John,
doing a great job there.
yeah, doing a phenomenal. We'll get him on.
Want to go golfing? That's the place to go.
We'll get him on Hometown Threads down the road.
Yeah.
John is also doing very well at a new job, Right Height in East Windsor,
Yeah.
I believe. I'm in touch with him a lot because of the Knights of Columbus. John is very active and does a great job helping out our council. What is Gina doing these days? And then,
Well, Gina is works for UConn, and she's involved with the unions up at UConn, and she also does some real estate. And
Bridget.
Bridget is a stay-at-home mom, and
Okay.
her husband is an electrician, and he's retired, but he's not so old. I think he just got a job teaching in a tech school. He's an electrician. He worked at Millstone, and whatever he did there, you can't work there like forever.
Right.
So you retire when you're younger.
So Willimantic Waste
He's a
Paper,
great guy.
one of the biggest businesses ever here in this town. Obviously now Casella, and we'll get to that little transition.
Yeah.
Casella's doing a very good job. But when you,
Well, I started talking about that last one.
That's
our
right.
Business. We were truly a recycling company. We were the
Recycling.
old-fashioned scrapyard. We did waste paper, bottles and cans, and then my father had bought a couple of small trash haulers. He bought a company called Brock's Trash, and he used to deal with a lot of these small. But he just wasn't for him. He didn't like the concept, of collecting heavy, making sure people pay their bills, and so he would get in it and then sell the business and then get it in again, and then when my dad passed away, Tim and I felt that was a really great path because all the public corporations were buying all the garbage men, and the garbage men supplied us with the recyclables. We would buy waste paper, cardboard, metal, scrap metal of all kinds, plastics, and if you lose your customer base, because the public companies don't need the little guy, they just, it's not how they function. So we started picking up trash, and then we bought companies ourselves, and we actually bought a company bigger than ourselves at one point, which really catapulted us. When we bought the West Main Street facility, that was like our big step, and then Lounsbury came along and we bought that. Then the Chronicle came along and we bought the Chronicle building.
Right, wow.
So
That's right. Good. And how long were you guys in that Chronicle location?
Well, we bought the Chronicle and we had a big fire. The big fire that everyone talks about.
Wait, the fire from a few years ago, right? No,
Correct.
that was a few
The
years
one
ago.
at 1590 West Main Street, but that wasn't our first big fire. We've had
We've had a couple fires. Yeah, what was the biggest fire?
well, we had a fire I think 1980,
Okay.
1979,
I was like
1980.
80, but I don't know.
No.
I only
It was a
remember the big
fire.
one. I only remember the big one.
But that one might have been bigger because we had a lot of pulp. My father was storing pulp and renting pulp. We did a lot of different things because there was a large paper mill thing in Connecticut. All the paper mills now are pretty much gone. But we had a lot of stuff. There was a big fire. But it wasn't.
But the one a few years ago.
But my grandfather had a big fire once that burned his plant down.
So,
And that's why he built a brick building. He had a wood
well,
building.
not that I want to sit here and rank fires, but
No.
where does the one?
The big one in 2020 was probably
Okay, I'll never forget that. It was a Sunday morning, and I think it was over at church, and you could see the smoke. I'm like, whoa! And boy, that must have been so heartbreaking and
it was
stressful
hard.
for you guys.
That was really hard on Tim and I, really hard, because that was our building. We bought it. That was our part of the company that we had grown, and it was an old steel mill. And
Was there ever? I'm sorry if
No.
I'm being naive. Was there ever? You guys? Was there a cause that ever come about?
no,
No. Okay.
well, it's just an act of God. We don't know what happened. They never could determine. You know what? Does it really matter if no one's hurt?
Right. That's the important.
No
thing.
one
Absolutely.
got hurt. No one got hurt.
So we have
Not
a few minutes left here with Wyndham Mayor Tom DeVivo talking about the old days of Willie Waste, and we're going to try and squeeze all
DeVivo's
this in.
Discount Warehouse.
DeVivo's Discount Warehouse, legendary business ownership.
My father bought Main Street Cafe
Oh,
on Valentine's Day.
See, I wish the show could go longer, but we only have a few more minutes. Tell me about, obviously we know, we just talked about it, the fires were some of the stressful issues you had to encounter, but you guys thrived for so many years. Working in a family business, I know what it's like. Me and my father butt heads probably in a
Your hair fell out.
There you go. You and Tim and John, you guys probably had your moments as well, right?
Right. We would have, a family businesses have a different dynamic. There's a lot of positive things, and a lot of bad things. So, but I only remember the good stuff, and we could go to lunch every day with my brothers and my son anytime we want.
I was at one of those lunches.
Yeah, but we could leave, walk up to the a restaurant, and have lunch. Papa's, whatever that end, or if we drive down. But we did it every day for many years, and sometimes even Mom would join us.
Nice, very nice.
But we transitioned. Tim and I did buy the business from our mother, so Tim and I were the final owners, and.
Well, a couple more questions here because
course.
I want to sneak them in. When did you and Tim and John, or how you guys said, okay, how'd you know when it was time to sell and cash your chips in?
It was just time. I had transitions in my life. I owned it. I owned half.
Were you already
the company.
mayor when you? I forget when.
No.
You weren't mayor yet. Okay.
I was.
Were you when you
Yes,
sold?
I was.
Okay.
I was
yeah.
Victor Funderburg. But the mayor thing in Wyndham, we have a strong town manager government, but he had to talk about something else. But we just knew it was time.
Yeah.
When did you know it was time to sell the radio station?
I'll never forget that day. That was
No,
2005. But you guys probably might do the same thing. I drove
Right.
around that day going, oh my goodness, we sold the radio station. So
And I drove around that day thinking it was unbelievable, telling all the employees I couldn't believe, but we had worked on it. The Casella family came down, John Casella, we met his daughter.
from
we met-
Vermont, right?
From Vermont, and they're a public company, they have public money. And, I just, some of the transitions in my life, I saw my father die at work. He didn't die at work, he died, but he was at work on Tuesday and dead on Wednesday. Okay? And, my mom, she was at work, and then she was at work, and she got sick, and within a week later she's dead. And I just plus 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we were thinking about work, thinking about how to develop the business and grow the business. And while that was enjoyable, you couldn't take a vacation. It was just different than what it was for my grandfather. In the old days, I don't know how your grandfather was, and my father, when we were younger, closed for an hour. 12 o'clock, that front door locked. If you showed up there in the truck at 5 or 12, you had to wait till he came back.
Wow.
And that's just the way it was.
So as we wrap up this last minute,
And
here,
we were working through lunch.
what's more stressful, being mayor or working running Willie Waste?
Oh, running Woolly Waste by far. But, it was a stress that you learn to live with and you love. And Tim and I have learned to handle it. And Tim and I still do have business together. We do real estate development and investments. And and we still, the whole family loves each other. We just, it's just that it was just time. What got us to where we were wasn't going to get us to where we needed to be. And so to do that, we would have to give up a significant portion of our control. And Tim and I really weren't cut for that. And it was just time. I lost my wife in that time. I lost my mom, my dad. And I had remarried, and that was all good. Things are good in my life, and we've been healthy. But it just was just one of those things. I just felt it was just time, and I talked to Tim about it, and he said, if this is what you want, then let's sell it and move on.
Well, I'm proud to call you a friend. And the Rice family and the DeVivo family, they've had ties for many, many years and many generations. So I want to thank Windham Mayor Tom DeVivo for once again joining us. It's almost like a second home for him. He's here if he's not on with Dennis and Susan or Wayne, he's on with me. And we'll get Tim on eventually down the road as well.
He's busy helping people learn to golf.
That's right. So
I even had my grandson swinging a club this morning.
Oh, very nice. So yeah, check out the Windham Golf Course. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you.
It's fun reflecting.
Thank you for having me.
Fun reflecting back on the old days of Willimantic Waste, now Casella. Thank you for watching and listening to Hometown Threads. Of course, brought to you by Liberty Bank. Be community kind. And thank you to J. Matt Rupar behind the board, RJ over at Willimantic Today, and we'll catch you next week on Hometown Threads on WILI and Willimantic Today Facebook.
And that concludes another edition of Hometown Threads. Got a story for Keith? Reach out to him on Facebook by searching Keith C. Rice or email him at krice@hallradio.net. Don't forget to tune in next week on 14 WILI and 95.3 FM, as well as the Willimantic Today page on Facebook.